Oh, there it is. Good. Hello, everybody. That's a good turnout. Thank you for coming on this fantastic Melbourne winter day. So I have got a little talk called Houston. We have a deployment, right? It's the deployment, which obviously is about deployment. And I like spaceships and rockets, so hence the theme. Yeah. I was very pleased with myself when I came up with that title as well. So, you know, you can come and tell me how good it is afterwards. So first of all, I have a couple of questions. Maybe, please. The clicker's not working. That's not very good. There we go. So in your company, who owns deployments? It's very loud. Anyway, just I'm going to keep asking you questions. We'll get to questions as well. Yeah? You own deployments. You're the one. I see. But so what's your title? What's your role? Senior machine learning engineer. And you're in charge of the deployments to production. To the models. Got it. Okay. Anyone else? Ron?
I'm the CTO/lead platform developer, and I am responsible for all the deployments.
That's how you know a company's huge, when the CTO is the lead platform developer. That's fair enough. Yeah. That's okay. Good. So far I've heard 2 developers. Yes.
Everyone deploys their own thing.
Everyone deploys their own thing. Interesting. I like that. Okay. We're probably going to get to something like that. Very good. Anyone else? No? You have the same? Just deploys. All right. And is that sort of across the entire whatever product range you have? It's all? Yeah? I have to ask, because you said you were from Bunnings. Do you have like, so the innovation lab, it says like, we're going to do AI-driven plumbing today. Is it like that? Yeah? I just, when you said the innovation lab at Bunnings, I went, oh, so many ideas.
We have cool project names.
Cool project names.
Cool project names.
Such as?
Project Swift, Project Rocket, Project Caps, whatever you want.
No, cool. The cool ones. Come on, the cool ones. Project Rocket.
Yeah.
Is that how to build a rocket? I know. Sorry, I'm going to stop with the Bunnings things. Okay, next question. How many environments do you have in your deployment? So it doesn't have to be the people that answered. Someone else might. How many deployment environments? Yeah. Is that 3? Yeah. Which are?
Dev, staging or sandbox.
Yep. And production. Okay. Does anyone have more than 3? Oh yeah. Okay. How many?
Well, if you count dev as 1.
Yeah.
We've got staging, pre-prod, and prod.
Pre-prod and prod.
Yeah.
Okay. Is that? How's that different to staging? So I'm just going to try and turn my... Am I really loud down there as well? I am, aren't I?
There's a bit of feedback.
Yeah.
I don't know how this works. Well, how do I turn myself down? Radio, input pad, utility. Better not. It is just... maybe it's not my end. It just sounds really, really loud. That's all. It might be on the desk. All right, cool. Yeah.
Yeah, I work for a company that there was at least 6 different environments.
6. Okay.
Dev, QA, production, pre-production, business.
Business.
Because the product was in that environment for the business team to test it.
Oh, so more like sort of a showcase, sort of like this is where we're at.
Like
okay.
5 or 6.
That sounds fun. Okay. And so how did you manage that deployment to 6 environments?
The product was jumping.
Oh, yeah. So FTP drag across. Right. Okay, good examples. Yeah. There'll be a point to this, obviously. I'm getting somewhere. Yes, Andrew.
At Linktree, we have an environment for each feature branch. So every time we create a new feature branch, we spawn the new environment.
Wow. Did that work well?
Yeah, it worked well because you could test just that particular feature.
Because it can work really well. It can also be an absolute nightmare if it's not managed properly. Yeah. Okay. Well, good. All right. Yeah. Okay. Yes.
You asked what the difference between prod and pre-prod and staging is.
Yeah.
For us, it's optimization of the code, like running the optimizations and so like the CSS and JS and stuff.
So does it work?
Well,
does it work well?
Yeah, that's it.
Kinda.
Like, is it closer? Because sometimes things break between optimizations, and I'm interested in the person in the back who said they had it too.
Fair enough. All right. All right. Cool. So we'll move on. Okay. Who deploys on a Friday? Well, some people do apparently, because you deploy whenever. Not Fridays. Ah, interesting. All right, cool, fair enough. Because it's sort of a tongue-in-cheek question, but some companies do. Was it Flickr or well, Flickr, wasn't it, that deployed every 10 minutes, like 24/7, something like that. That was a long time ago. That was when the first whole CI/CD became sort of famous, infamous. All right, cool. Where are we at? I wasn't turned down, it seems, but anyway, we can venture on. Hi, everybody. I'm Lars. Get in eventually. Feedback.
You're actually under a mic, you're aware? That's why your feedback.
No, that's an antenna.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Every time you move
If I unscrew that, we lose all connection.
If you step away from it, there's
Hello?
feedback. Might be interfering.
Interfering. Oh, it could be interfering.
Yeah.
So I have to sort of go this way.
There's also the speaker directly behind you. That's probably what the speaker.
Yeah, I think so. I work for a company called Arkahna. We are a product company that also do consulting things. Come talk to me if you want to know more. It's a bit interesting. But yeah, this talk is about one of the products that we've come up with because we had some of the problems that all of you guys had, right? I'm an MVP, hopefully after tomorrow as well, because all the renewals come out tomorrow, or, well, tomorrow US time. I don't know. I never worry too much about it. And I have a YouTube channel, which I love. Has nothing to do with Azure, which is what my MVP is in. But yeah, if you like YouTube on networking and home automation and lawnmowers and llamas, go there. Right, so we got to the questions. And there's the llamas. If you have questions, just yell them out. Because this is a meetup, I'm not talking at you, it should be a conversation, right? So if there's something I say that doesn't make sense, or you want to add something, just either shout it out, that's fine too, I don't mind being interrupted, or just put your hand up, or use the Slido, and someone, I'm assuming, is going to look at the Slido questions. That's fine. Like, I'd rather have many questions and conversations, and I probably don't know half of what you're asking, but at least we get the conversation rolling. Hence the questions at the start, because now you're warmed up. Yeah? All right. So, feature flags. Has anyone heard of feature flags? It should be everybody, I hoped. No? Who doesn't know what a feature flag is? Okay, so it is. Oh, you don't? Are you just...
No, I'm a recruiter, so I don't know.
Ah.
But I'd love to learn more.
Welcome. Yeah, so feature flags, as hopefully developers at least know, are things that we use to toggle things on and off, right? So we have... It says a software development concept allows you to configure features without modifying the source code requiring a redeploy or deployment, right? Does that make sense? Is this how we use feature flags? Right? Who has feature flags that requires a deployment? Oh, come on, there's some. There's always some, right? Because that's usually where we end up. And there's good reasons why we end up in that scenario where we have actual deployments needed. Make sure I got my notes because they're all the way over here. Anyway, all right, so that's feature flags. What I want to talk about specifically in this talk is something that's called feature management, which is sort of a step further. I hope this makes sense. So it says, feature management is the practice for controlling the release and behavior of software features using various strategies and tools enabling teams to develop, test, and configure features independently of deployments. That last bit is really, really important. Right? And you'll see, I'll give you lots of examples of why that is so freaking cool. But feature management is sort of, let's say, feature flag is Windows Vista, and feature management is now Windows sort of 11, right? We've sort of come a long way since we were just doing feature flags for everything. Because who has built their own feature flag management tool? Yep. Have you got your at Bunnings? Is it Bunnings or just in past?
20 years ago.
Oh, I was hoping for a good story. Yeah, and most of us have, because we got to a point where we go, oh crap, I need to be able to switch something on and off, right? Right, who uses a feature toggling solution from a third party? Okay, who doesn't use feature flags or feature toggling at all? Okay, and the recruiter, and I'm sure, yeah, so good. So, no, for candidates, we go, oh, no. Yeah, okay, so there's a whole lot of hands that didn't go up or down or anything, so I don't know. Is that because you don't want to tell me? But feature flags is very commonly used, and there's some very big companies that charge a lot of money doing it. And that's kind of where, well, I say it was actually, has anyone heard of Jake Ginnivan, who runs DDD Perth? No? Okay, anyway, he came up with this tool, but I'll show you that in just a minute. Right, so that's feature management versus feature flags. So in this talk, I want to talk about 3 parts in particular. I want to cover some challenges we have with features, feature flags, feature toggling in general. How do we manage features? And there's a lot of good examples, trust me. So horror stories, traditional approaches, and lack of feature management. Because obviously I want all of you to see the light and sort of realize the feature management is a thing. Right? That's kind of my aim of the talk, just in case you hadn't realized. I want to share this new way that we think at Arkahna is fantastic, and I'd love to hear all your opinion and try and poke holes in it, because that's the best way to make things better. And then talk about some of the current projects, possibly. We'll see if we get to the 3rd part, because otherwise George is going to kick me out if I'm too much here. So first of all, feature deployment. So this is one of the challenges there are with feature toggling in general, right? When do you deploy features? So does anyone want to volunteer? How do you manage feature deployment in particular? So you have your production environment and you have a feature that you're developing as a developer. You might be a team that's doing it. And then you want that to go into production at some point. How is that managed? I hope that's a relatively vague but clear question. Because no? Anyone? So I missed that. Push to main. Okay. So if someone from the business says, hey, or the product owner, I'm getting to you, Alex, don't worry, says, hey, we're launching this feature on the 22nd. Then what?
If it's tested, then it's going to go to the production, otherwise not.
So hang on, so say that again.
So if it's tested on the development environment,
yeah,
then you can push it on the production. Otherwise, you.
But how do you know it's going to go out on the 22nd?
That's like a not a me problem, you know?
Right. We all laugh. It's actually interesting you say that, because I'll show you why it really isn't a you problem as an engineer. But we'll get to that. Did you want to add, Alex? Hang on, just a second. Yeah?
So for us, it gets developed and gets tested in a proper environment like a UAT.
Mm-hmm.
Like test everything,
Yep.
feature within the... And then once it's validated and we set a date, someone will push everything to the first release environment.
Yep.
That customers have mapped to in their test environments. They can test that for 3 months, and then we push everything from the first release to the production, on which each customers their production environment are on. So we have different rings. And,
wow.
And so the date is not programmed, it's someone that is actually
yep.
pushing the button.
So there's a person going, yep. That's going now.
Yep.
How often does that not work? I'm not trying to be facetious, I'm just sort of...
I don't know if it doesn't work. So far I didn't hear
it's okay.
Working.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's what I hear is it's a relatively manual process trying to manage that part of it. Yeah, that's fair. Okay. So hang on. Yep.
So basically put a flag in the configuration and use the configuration file to switch it on and off.
So you have a configuration file that you use to switch it on and off?
Yeah.
Yes, I have seen that one. In fact, I'm not going to name the company, but we spoke to someone about using the tool I'm going to show you. They had, you're sitting down, good, 7,000 feature flags. 7,000 feature flags. And they were managed in JSON files. So yeah, you're not completely off saying that. Yeah, how well do you think that works? Yeah, it took them roughly 2 weeks to do a deployment to production because it required multiple deployments in between. So yeah, so interesting. Yeah, did you want to add, Bron?
I was going to say what I know at least one other person in the room is thinking, and that is I have had code that literally says if datetime.now is greater than less than, a
Yep.
date, then have this. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Did you all get that? If date time is greater than some date,
And I
you know?
might have the date coming from the configuration.
Sure. But it's somewhere, there's a date that's put in and your code is checking for that date. So hopefully there's no time zone changes.
Oh, no,
Good.
that's
All right, cool.
Just ripping off your 7,000 feature flags thing.
Yes.
The problem we had at Linktree was that it was really easy to add feature flags. Taking them out afterwards was very
Yep.
hard.
Yep.
Part of the reason, obviously, there's the whole technical reasons behind it, but one of the business reasons behind it was that was non-essential work and was basically seen as tech debt.
Yeah.
and so could only be scheduled during maintenance time.
Which there never was.
Which there never was.
No, no. And who here as a developer loves doing maintenance? Exactly. So, so who oversees, actually I had some questions here that I forgot. Who oversees your feature deployments? We've sort of, who oversees them? It's sort of engineering a little bit down there here. And then there's some product, is it product people that do? No, it's not. It's engineers that press the buttons, yeah? So we've got engineers. Does any product people own the deployments or oversee them? Doesn't have to be you as a product person, but that you know of in your team, no? Interesting. Okay, who decides when new features should go into production? That's the business, right? Is it never not the business? Doesn't count because you are the business as well. Startups are different. I'm the CTO and the product owner. Click. Yeah, but it often is, right? It is the business, however that is. If it's a small business, it's the CEO or the CTO. If it's a bigger business, it's the product owner, etc. Right? Hopefully, you're building a mental map of what the problem is here. And so the business is always the problem. Damn, want to make money all the time. What is the process for deploying features? And we sort of talked about that a little bit. I should have probably gone up with the questions. I'll do that now. All right, so that's the first challenge, which was feature deployment. It's pretty critical. And as we hear, there's many ways of doing it. And many ways of doing it, should I say incorrectly? But, you know, difficulty at least. Environment parity. Does anyone know what I'm saying? What I mean when I say that? There's a few nods. Okay, so environment parity is if you say have 6 environments, you want to make sure that you have parity of features between all the environments, or parity of code or configs, right? So why is that important? Well, because otherwise you're going to have something in dev and you deploy it to staging and it breaks because staging doesn't know about the thing you just did. Right? So how do you manage that? Do you have a clear process for enabling features in prod? So you had one of clicking buttons, basically. And is that what you said, Brian?
No, we have database table that has our flags.
So you have feature flags in a database table?
Yeah.
So you built your own? Yeah, good. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, because we've all been there, and when you're a small team, you sort of go... Exactly, right? Yeah, and MVPs never go to production anyway. So that's, you know, a good question, I think, pretty important. Who decides when new features should go into production? Again, probably the business, right? But with environment parity, how do you then put them in the right environment for them? Yeah? And again, yell out if I don't make sense, okay? Instead of just going, I don't understand that, just tell me you didn't understand and we'll figure it out. What's the process for deploying features? There were some elements, we sort of jumped ahead a bit, but that's what I like, the conversations about it. But in terms of having environment parity, these are really important questions to answer and have pat down. So I'm going to pick on Bunnings, because you guys are a really big company.
Oh my God.
How do you manage this in broad terms?
All right. Do you have a clear process of enabling features in prod? Well, there's different kinds of features. There's the features that you talked about that need to be scheduled at some point, and there's features that goes into the, you know, the change of the team. So there's so many different changes. So we use third-party feature management platforms like Optimizely or Unleash to manage features like, you know, on and off. And we also have teams like marketing team, you know, business people that have access to tools that would allow them to publish content in Bunnings.com.au, for example, without having a deployment or a release cycle.
All right, so like a CMS type thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of work into that space as well. So it's basically all over the place. It's actually, it's a big spectrum. So based on what kind of change and who's driving the change, there's a bit of everything. So the short answer is, it depends. It depends. Which is always my favorite answer, because you're like, oh, what does that mean? No, cool, thank you. All right, I'm going to keep going, because otherwise we might run out of time. All right, let's make sure I got the time here as well. So caching and CDN hits. This is a little bit more maybe niche, but if it applies to you, it's super critical. I'm assuming I'm going to keep picking on Bunnings because it's a big project, right? I'm going to keep saying it depends. No, but what I was going to say is I'm assuming you have a CDN that you're using caching and CDN, right?
And I'll give you an example of why with feature management in mind in particular, it is a pretty important part of it. Because say you have a large news website, right? And you want to have different features for different levels of subscription. So you have your premium subscribers, you have your gold, you have your VIP, whatever they're called, right? And you sell different levels of access. Pretty common. Like lots of SaaS products do that. If you have, say, a news website, well, all of the stories and everything are the same, right? Sometimes it's just like how much of it can you read, or how many ads do you see, or there's a few bits and pieces that makes you want to upgrade your subscription. So when you log in and you log in with your user profile, what happens with the cache and the DNS? How is it going to cache your user profile when you have 5,000 hits every second because there's a news story breaking? You can't, right? Because it's you. You are a user. Is it important who the user is that reads that news article? Not really. You just need to know their level. Can they read it or not? So there's this disconnect, especially with caching, and it becomes, and this is an actual example of Jake, that was part of the reason he built this tool, was that this was a huge problem for where he was in WA, that they had to manage all these hundreds of thousands of users on this news website, but they couldn't cache anything, and it made it super slow or really, really expensive. So fetching data for each user is expensive because you do it every single time. It's really difficult to cache anything. Now you can probably cache the news story, that's great, but all the bits that say who the user is and where they're about and all the level things becomes expensive. Inferior caching makes an application slow, and that Google loves slow applications, right? No. Right, that's the number one. You even have an environment for optimization. It's that important. All right. All right. And finally, lack of caching makes users sad pandas. Right? Users get really sad when things don't work, and then they leave. So I'm guessing that I'm not going to ask. I'm just going to assume that someone like Bunnings will have lots and lots of users as well, right? Because I certainly have a user account with Bunnings, even though my closest Bunnings is an hour away. Can you fix that? Good. I also live in the middle of nowhere. So,
Delivery. You want to get stuff delivered?
ish. You don't actually deliver to me.
Check your website.
No. I did. They don't. I have to ring my actual Bunnings store and then pay them $60 to bring it to me. I'm that far away. Bron will attest. Yeah. Sorry?
I was supported Bunnings near there too, because camping at Eildon is a nightmare with no Bunnings.
Yeah.
Get on it.
Get on it. Just like a country Bunnings. All right. And then I'll get to the fourth challenge. This is the last one I'm doing these, and then we'll start looking at some actual stuff, and I'll click buttons and make things break. Rigid features. Right, so traditional feature toggling is very rigid. It's on off. Right, who has feature management that isn't on off for features? You do.
Yeah, so at Linktree we used to roll out features region-based.
Region-based.
Yeah, so for example, we used to start off with Indonesia for some reason.
Oh, I see. Bit like Facebook does, essentially.
Basically.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah.
And we combine that with, okay, we do Indonesia first as a test bed, and then we roll it out. I don't know why we chose Indonesia.
We don't really care about Indonesia, is what I'm hearing.
And then we do percentage-based rollout of users.
Sure.
So 10% per hour for the next 90.
Yeah. Okay. All right. But I'm not wrong, I think, in saying, does anyone contest that argument that it is very much on off? Good.
On off per user, right?
On off per user.
Do you mean like you don't even mean per user? You just mean on the system full stop?
Oh, just features in general. When you have something, oh, I want to turn it off. Oh, I want to turn it off.
I know.
Yeah. Per user. Yeah. Okay. Well, that too.
Yeah,
Sorry.
right, yeah.
But they're all Booleans. Yes. Scalability becomes harder and harder the more toggles you have. Just ask the company that have 7,000 toggles. That was many questions I had for them, and they were like, "Yeah, we know." It really does. The more you have of your config sheet, for example, of managing your YAML or your JSON or whatever it is, it just becomes bloated, right? It becomes really difficult. And targeted feature releases are more difficult. And does anyone do targeted feature releases? And what I mean by that is, actually, like Andrew was just saying, you have somewhere like, I want this group of users or whatever to have this feature. For example, you have a really important client and they want to have this really important feature, but you can't sell it to anyone else. So you need to target it just to their account. Do you have that? Yeah, cool. Yeah, because it's kind of difficult to do, I find. Good. Exactly. Well, I'm going to still keep talking, but I'm going to go over here. All right. Any questions? Just yell them out. I made it. Okay. So I'm going to go to. Let's see. Can you see that, Will? Just making sure. No, not you. The screen. Jeez. Good. Is it recording? I should have said. Alrighty. So, click the what? The hide. No, I want you to see it. All right. Can you? I didn't kill it, did I? I don't trust email. Sorry, I've had too many bad experiences. Okay, so this is FeatureBoard. Now, I don't want to make this a sales pitch, but I actually think it's so cool that I wanted to share you, and it's my job. This is a completely different way of looking at features, so I'm going to try and explain that a little bit first, so hopefully you get an idea. And if you think this looks simple, good. It's supposed to, right? That's the whole idea. And then I'll get into all the different comments and questions we had before. Hopefully they'll become more obvious as I go through this. So on the left, we have features and audiences. Those are the two main things that you need to worry about here. So audiences it's a difficult thing to word. What are the two most difficult things in software development? Does anyone know? Naming things, occasion validation, and off by one errors, right? So we're not quite happy with audiences, but it's what we got. Thank you. I like it. That should have come first. But anyway, he said eventual consistency for those that missed it. So audiences is kind of like your group of users, but they're also not. It's more of a targeted group of things, right? So in here, we could have a plan, for example. So let me click on the plan. I'm going to stop walking back and forwards. Plan, we have basic, family, free, and premium. Now, this particular application is a demo app called Bardic Beats. It's a play on Spotify. So you'll see, if you think Spotify, you kind of get the idea of where the features go, etc. Right? Jake actually built half an app that goes with it, which plays Spotify music based on these things. But I don't know Remix or his magic code, so I have no idea how to run it. That'll be next talk. But in here we have 4 different plans: basic, family, free, and premium. Pretty simple, right? That makes sense. Yeah, that's like you'll see in any other app. Now those audiences can have targeted features. For example, if I click on family, you can see that there are targeted features for this audience. Right, so hopefully you're building a bit of a mental map of how this hangs together. So these, how many others? 6 targeted features for the family plan. And then this is curated playlist, and you can see these are all Booleans, by the way. True. So if there is a plan family member, so this is what you do in your code, I'll get to that as well, then it will have curated playlists, it'll have family sharing, it'll have a concurrent device limit, etc. These are the targeted features. Down below, there's all the other features that aren't targeted. Right? You can see them here. So you could target those as well, just hit a little plus if you wanted to. I hope that makes sense. Now, if I go the other way and I go to, say, family sharing, so I go up here, I go to plan limit, and what's the plan? Oh, curated playlist, that was another one. And I click on that, you can see down here I have targeted audiences. So those are the audiences that have targeted that feature. Does that make sense? So you have that connection, right? And why is that important? We don't ever talk about users. We don't care about users, because that comes back to the caching part of it. It becomes really difficult. So instead what you do is when you set up your code, you have something called an audience provider. And that's your job as developers to find out who is the audience for this request. Right? That makes sense? So we never talk about users. You can do it on user base if you really wanted to. It'll totally support that, but good luck. Right? It's the whole idea is that you don't. And then you have default values here as well for all other audiences. And again, you can add a new target audience if you wanted to. And then it does this clever thing, I think, is it sort of thinks, it knows which it probably will be based on what you've targeted in terms of features from which audience. I'm going to say audience features a lot. All right. I'll just get my notes here, make sure. Okay. So, yep. Now, if we wanted to create a new feature, for example, so we can go up here somewhere. Well, let's go with plan limit. And we create a new plan limit. So these, by the way, all these features is totally customizable. You can edit all these categories and add new ones to your heart's content, right? But I might get to that in a little bit. We'll see how we go. But if I go into the plan limits, I want to create a new plan limit for this. And I want to call it, I don't know, let's say Meetup. Okay, we're going to do Melbourne Meetup VIP. All right, so that's a new plan limit. So what I'm trying to do here is, what I am doing is I'm setting up a feature that will have something to do with whether you are in Melbourne or not, and if so, you're going to be a VIP, right? So I can give it a description if I wanted to. Special Melbourne, I better do it properly. The AI is watching. Special Melbourne people that can see this demo. It's you. And then you get a key. You can change that. This is the key you use on the dev side, in the code. And I do say dev side specifically because you'll see why. And then I can choose a data type. And this is part of the power of it, is that you don't just have Booleans, because everybody's sick of Booleans because they're going off. I could put in, what about options? Yeah. So we could have a number of options here. And this could be, I don't know, South Bank could be one part of Melbourne, maybe, if you want to put it down to suburb. And what's another suburb in inner Melbourne? Anyone? Richmond. There's a footy supporter. Good. And then we can put another one. Footscray or Fitzroy? Footscray. I can't spell now. There we go. Footscray, right? Is that right? Sure. That's the correct answer. Sure. And then we can create that. And that is as simple as that. And then we now have a new plan limit, right? It's down here. You see I did this talk in Newcastle as well, because there's a Newcastle VIP. So now this Melbourne VIP, if I click on it, doesn't have any targeted audiences. I haven't told any, there's no audience that I'm targeting with this. It's going to be, okay, we can put some. And now it's going to think probably it's a plan, but we're going to show unrelated categories as well. There's a region. I don't know. We could choose whatever. This will be for live music. So what this is saying in the context of a music app is that if I'm listening to live music, so whatever that might be, however you tag that, and I'm in one of these suburbs, I get something. I'm a VIP. Yeah, make sense? So suddenly this feature is no longer just on and off, are you in Melbourne? It becomes much more deep. Now you don't have to do it that deep. You know, you can have your on-off toggles as well. That's totally fine as well. But you have this facility to set up much more complex features in a pretty simple way, I think. Once you've done it a few times, it becomes much easier to sort of comprehend. Okay, any questions on that, features and audiences? Or are you completely like, what is he on about? Or not? Are you asleep? Anyone? Yeah? Say again?
The deployment environment architecture.
Getting to that. Yep, I'm getting to that. You've seen all the little tags there, I know. All right. So that's how you can create a new feature. And I have no idea how long I've gone for, William. I'm well ahead of time. Very good. All right. So another thing that's kind of, the reason I said it wasn't user-based is that, for example, we have song tag. So again, think Spotify. Has anyone ever played a Star Wars song in Spotify? What happens? Did you notice? Progress bar? Lightsaber. Yeah, you're right. Exactly. The progress bar turns into a lightsaber. It does. I actually have, we can try it out just because we got time. Have a look. So here's Spotify. And here's my playlists. Oh, my retro 80s Danish is not on here. Anyway, if I go Star Wars, and we get, I don't know, that one. And probably going to make a lie out of me now, don't you think? Let's just play that. Come on. There you go. See, down the bottom? It's a lightsaber. Isn't that lovely? You're welcome. If you got nothing out of this talk, you got that. But we mimic that here, right? So we have Star Wars. And we put that in there to try and show the example of this has nothing to do with the user, right? Nothing. It doesn't matter what plan they are. It doesn't matter where they are. It doesn't matter what their first name is. It's just, are they listening to a Star Wars song, right? And if they are, well, then you do something like having a lightsaber as the progress bar. So you could also have one for live music, or I don't know what that is. Ask Jake. Does anyone know what that is? Good. I can really pay him out about it now. Does that make sense? So the audience doesn't have to be a plan or a category. Like it's much more than that. Hence, does anyone have a better word than audience? It's really tricky to name things. But no, the audience that is now currently looking at Star Wars. It could also be it's your birthday, right? That doesn't have anything to do with the user either as such. It's just, is it your birthday today? So there's many ways that you can have this sort of dynamic, interactive part of it. Okay. What is next? And again, ask questions, everybody. So there is, let's see if I can find it. So we use FeatureBoard for FeatureBoard, by the way, which I still can't get my head around, but apparently that's what we do. So if I go to, actually I can go to the production part of it. Let's see if this works. Because we've got time. And we've got to have something that blows up, right? Oh, they open up the same one. Okay, let me just see. So, in here, we have, oh, no, I can't find it. Here's the good thing about a startup. They keep, had anyone ever used Airbnb, I'm guessing? Every time I open that thing, it's different. Every single time. It's a little bit like that here, and he's moved it. I wanted to show you the real-time thing, because it's, when you do, okay, I'm going to rebound. So someone asked about let me just go back to the proper one, the environments, right? So in here we have a whole bunch of features. Now there was a question that I asked before about how do you manage it between environments. Someone said we had 6 environments. There was I can't even remember what you said. There was a very complicated way of putting features out that required people pressing buttons, etc. Here's the way you do it in FeatureBoard. If you want this particular curated playlist to be in production, you toggle that thing and you go make feature available, and now it's in production. That's it. Does anyone not believe me? And you go, what?
Is it about business logic? So it's not about deployments.
That's right.
It's just business logic.
Yep. So,
yeah, but that's assuming that feature already hit that environment in terms of the code change, right?
maybe.
Not the one you created before.
Maybe.
The one that's fake.
No. So the reason I did that now, right, because I can see the skepticism, is that as developers, you're probably never really going to use this tool or this portal, right? But you need to know about it, because all of the code that you write is managed through here. And the reason we do that is we want very, very much to separate developers from product owners in terms of deployment. Right? So what this tool allows you to do is that you can, as a developer, you can put in features whenever you want. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter one bit when a feature goes to production at all, because it's the product owner or the business people that go in here and say, yeah, that feature is now live. Does that make sense? So I'll show you the code. Actually, I'm going to show you the docs because it's a bit clearer. But here are the docs that we've built. Can you see that? Is that big enough? Make bigger. William is doing bigger. Yeah,
How do the product owners know whether the feature is being implemented or not?
getting there. It's a good question. How do they know it's even there? Right? Like, how do they know? Now, I'm not saying all communication should stop between the two teams. That's not the point. The point is that the responsibility is changed, right? Is split. But it's a good question. How do they know? So we're at the .NET meetup. So it's the .NET SDK, which I'm happy about because that's my thing as well. But we do have Java, JavaScript, Node, and React as well. And we actually create the SDKs as customers need them, to be honest. That's the only way to do it. It's like, oh, we really want one in Ruby is the current one. And then we have no idea what Ruby is. There's no people in Arkahna that are like, Ruby? Oh, so that'd be interesting. But, it's worth it. So we have a CLI tool. It can scaffold things for you quite nicely currently. So if you set up all the features in the portal, there's a command that builds the whole scaffolding of all the features in whatever language you want it in, or .NET currently, I think. So this kind of command, code gen template .NET API, and you tell it what template it is. So this particular one could be the Bardic Beats, and then it'll build the whole .NET structure for you, which is nice. It gets you up and running quick. Okay, so I'm going to skip a few of these because they're a bit boring. The audience provider that I mentioned before, this is where you set up the claims in whatever way you want. If you want to drag them in from, what's it called now? Azure Entra ID, because thanks Microsoft. What was wrong with Active Directory? You can do that if you have, oh God knows, Auth0. If you have whatever management solution you have, you build it here. So you write your code to make sure that that is built. That's the important part of it as a dev, right? So you have this audience provider, claims audience provider, and that's the one you use. So there's a bit of middleware here, some polling strategies, because we are aware that we suddenly becomes a point of failure if everything relies on FeatureBoard, which is a SaaS service. SaaS service is a SaaS. And we go down, then what? So there's a whole strategy around that, how you mitigate that. So yes, we have thought about that. That's the middleware, use FeatureBoard. And in here, there's Azure Function Support. Actually, I'm just going to go down here, and show you usage. There we go, because we only have so much time. There. So all you have to do is go if, and you have your FeatureBoard client, get feature value, and then you poll for the features. And there was a question of, what if the feature doesn't exist? That's that little thing here. That's the default. So there's always a default. So if something here doesn't work, it just goes false. Right, and that's a good way of putting, say, is this feature available? If it's a Boolean, you could have if it's the Star Wars one, not Star Wars, the one we just created with an option list, maybe you have just Melbourne CBD is whatever, right? But you set a default value, which makes sure that you don't have that scenario that you were just talking about, like who was first, chicken or the egg, right? And this is why it does not matter when you deploy. It really doesn't, because you just set whatever the business has said should be the default. That's it, and off you go. Code goes out.
But you can't set it up in the dashboard side until you've got the code here, right?
Sure. Yeah. But it's just a toggle. It just doesn't do anything.
I think the question was how the product owner know that this code actually reached the environment that he's pressing on.
That is called communication in the team.
So
Yeah.
You
did. That's what I was saying. I'm not saying stop communication. I'm saying split the responsibility of when code goes out and when features go live, which is always a huge problem. Like you were saying, well, then someone has to sit on the date and go, 2 a.m., yay, right? We don't want that.
Is there an API available so that you can push new feature flags to the dashboard?
Yep, there is, and the SDK is actually free. Like if you want to play, actually, we do have a free. Anyway, I'll get to that at the end. But yes, yes.
You can script the addition in the dashboard.
You could.
After this code
Yep.
is on the environment.
Yep. As long as you have your auth part of it and blah blah blah. Yep. So that's. I hope that makes sense. There's a little bit I scrolled over because it's about if you actually start using it, you want to be aware of certain conditions and whatnot. But that's it. And this also makes it super easy to retrofit it, because all you do is put this if around things. That's all you have to do. So if you have an existing thing you want to make a FeatureBoard toggle or flag or list or whatever you want to call it, then you just put an if around that part of it, and then that's it. We've had one client that wanted to use this for, so it's a very common scenario. Big company buys another big company in Canada. So an Australian company buys another big company in Canada, and they go, "Ooh, you should definitely use our code base because we're much better." Does that sound familiar? Yeah. So they go, "Oh yeah, okay, cool." So they deploy it to Canada, and they go, "Oh yeah, here's our new thing," and they go, "Ooh, it's a bit different. Okay, we're going to make Canada their own master." So suddenly they have two versions of the same code base. Never happened before, right? Ever. It's just, yeah. Now they come to us and go, we actually want to put them back together again, right? And this is what happens. This is why we have a job. We're never going to run out of work. This allows them to put all of these features around the, let's say, the Canadian side of things and go, okay, we use FeatureBoard to manage all of these features that are we now bringing back or combining, and we'll then let the business know or decide when to turn them on or when to switch from one to the other. So it's really good for that too. All right. I think that's it for the code part, at least the interesting bits. There's the CLI. Yeah. Any question I've had pretty good questions, I must admit. Yes.
I know you said that if you want to do it per user, then you're an idiot and you shouldn't. But what if you have a CEO or a sales manager who says, "I promised this client that they could have this feature," even though they're not an enterprise client?
Yep, you can absolutely do that. You set up features for it. So it's a little bit more involved, but yeah, you set up specific features you almost create, I'll show you. Well, either that or you create a new product for them. So you manage them separately. You can do that too. And you can base it on the existing product. Or you set up an audience which is them, just them. You can do that too. Depends a little bit how much of us, like how big is this thing you want to do. But yeah, if you create a new audience that is customer X, and then you make sure that in your code, you check for if it's customer X that's in that audience, yeah.
The audience can be customer IDs, for example.
Absolutely.
ID,
oh yeah.
Check if the ID equals something.
Yeah, the feature is still the feature.
Yeah. Was that from Slido or?
No,
that was you. All right, yeah.
Are there any conflicting features that you will automatically override?
Oh, like a hierarchy. No, we haven't got that. We've sort of let you do that in code. What we are working on is making features depend on each other. So we can have sort of almost like a if then else within the features, because that's something we've been asked to do. But not conflicting as such. That sort of, your code will probably break if like it'll be a code thing more than a FeatureBoard thing. Does that make sense? Because you'll have some logic in your code that goes, oh, I gotta enable that feature, and then somewhere else it goes, oh, the opposite feature, or off again or something, right? So that would be more of a bug that way. Yes.
An interesting question.
I hope so.
General change management. What do you recommend the change management processes around, working, turning on and off feature flagging, targeting different environments? In environments where there is, like high risk of things go wrong, and also a lot of teams, and where people need to know what's happening. Like the feature, there's different teams or different parts in the organization impacting each features, and we need to let everyone know about the change before and during the execution of or rolling out the change, and after everything goes well, right? So like, what's the story? Like, how does feature management help in that?
Yeah.
And maybe to complement that, there's a bit of a debate or discussion between people. If we are releasing a new feature and it's off, right? Would that consider a change? Are we changing the environment?
Oh, I see.
We are changing the code of the environment.
Yeah. So what you're saying is, if I go up here and I'm a product manager now, right? A product owner, I go, oh no, that shouldn't be in staging. Right, I'll do that. You're saying, should I then let know 600 people that this is happening? Is that what you're asking?
That's one.
That's one?
That's one. That's the first part, which
Yeah.
is change management around turning on and off,
Uh-huh.
right? The second part is when we roll out the change, the code change,
Yes.
that actually have the feature equals something with the default code.
Sure.
Right? Is that a change in the environment or not? Should we?
Oh, right.
Yes.
Well, I'm not going to tell you how to do change management, nor am I qualified to. But I would, again, it becomes an internal mechanism of how you manage the team. We're not building a change management tool. So however you decide to manage that, I would say is still valid. I don't think that changes as such. It just means the developers can't mess things up. Sorry, as much. Of course we can. Yeah.
So can there be an audience for feature toggling?
Can there be an audience for feature toggling? So you again.
The change management, to support the change management.
Yeah, I mean, you could put, like, you want recursion basically, is what you're saying. As in, like we use FeatureBoard for FeatureBoard. Is that what you're asking? No.
For example, yeah, like you turn off your staging, and at least the people who involved with staging environment got a notification.
Oh, I see. Does it raise an event? I'm not sure. To be honest, I'm not sure if it does.
I'm just following up.
Yeah, no, you're good. That's a good question.
Change requests, release
Uh-huh.
things like that.
I know there's pretty extensive logs behind it, but whether there's an actual event like a, there are webhooks. So I would say yes. There is a webhook you can use that will give you all of that info. I'm pretty sure. Be careful I don't make shit up, but anyway, there's a webhook here. Yes.
When you say that you can have a how do you schedule for a release? So right now you're just plugging on off.
Yeah. Well, yeah, if you use the tool here, right, you can. If it's a much broader thing, it would be like to Bron's question, is there an API? You would maybe do something with an API type thing.
As a product, you can just I will release this.
Yeah, it becomes your tool. Or you could give it to the CTO. No, whoever is in charge of the product, and of course you can have different user groups. So some will just have read only, you don't give everybody admin, right? That would be interesting. Will's pointing, yes.
Pretty quick, does it check the feature toggle? Once I go to that code, does it do a call to your servers around that time? And what if my code is hosted in like US region? Like what will be the latency if it's a high transaction environment?
Yep. So obviously we host FeatureBoard as Arkahna, we host FeatureBoard. So we provide the latency. It comes back to one of those interesting questions of how do you price things? Which luckily I don't have much to do with because that's bloody hard. But let me just show you here. This is the FeatureBoard. So that's it. So there's a free thing, right? This is why I wanted you to go and click in a minute. Feature refresh within 5 minutes on the free one. So when you change things, it takes about 5 minutes before. And that's, of course, basically just a loop that says wait 5 minutes, right? Because we've got to be able to upsell. That's one of the ways. For businesses, it's about 30 seconds. And then if you go for the enterprise, it's live refresh, which we have a couple of customers on that do live refresh because it's that important that when they do something, it's straight away. Does that answer your question, or am I completely off the mark?
Load the features which are enabled in memory, and then it doesn't call your servers every time.
Oh yeah, caching is amazing for this thing. Yeah, and we use caching a lot. So when you call FeatureBoard, there's caching nearest your endpoint, if that makes sense. So that's why we can guarantee live feature refresh. It's because it's going to be as close to you as possible. Maybe not the first time, but subsequently. Yeah. All right. More? Yes?
In the SDK or
Sorry, say that again.
is caged in the SDK in the application, or is somewhere in your blog?
No, we cache it. Yeah, we cache all the feature management part of it. That's part of the service that we provide.
Yes, the issue I think you say is if you have your application host here and the SDK is able to catch there, so it's locally, or you have to go to your server and every time you have to.
Well, you can cache it locally. We actually have, there's a couple of blog posts we have on that as well, how you cache it locally, because you can do that too.
You do it with your SDK, or you have to...
With the SDK, yeah. I think if I can find it. Good question. Is it that one? Whoops, sorry. I can't remember exactly where that is. External state store for SDKs. I think that's where it is. Don't hold me to it, because yeah, it starts getting. But yeah, you can do it locally as well. There's a way, and also if we go down and FeatureBoard is down, there is a way of mitigating that by having a local feature management store as well. So, because that has been a problem. Because Azure never goes down, right? Cloudflare, yeah, exactly.
There's no questions on site.
That's because we all do it in person. It's good. All right. So I'll see if have I covered everything. Are you sick of me talking?
No one yet.
It's not going to stop me, but I'm just saying. But okay. So I just want to ask here. Obviously, does this make sense? It's like I want to hear from devs and product owners alike. I know there's one product owner. Does this make sense? Is this something like? Would this solve something that you have, a problem that you have? I can imagine with the 6 environments trying to figure out feature flag, it might be a help. No, I'm keen to hear sort of ideas. This is very new. Right? We only launched it in November.
How does it differ from existing feature management systems?
Aha! Yeah.
Right?
Launch Darkly.
What does it bring that, besides being a lot more cheaper?
So like, well, anything is. Like diamonds are cheaper. I'm not wrong. So Launch Darkly is very good at the user level of doing on-off things. They have all the traditional problems of caching things and managing complex features. They don't have, as far as I know, they don't have any of the complexities that you can insert with relative ease. It's mostly about on-off, but the biggest difference is that Launch Darkly, in particular, is aimed at DevOps or engineers, 100%. Where we go, that doesn't make any sense. Why are they in charge of launching features? So we've moved it to be, no, the product owner is actually in charge of launching the features. And the developers are obviously talking to product owners, but as developers, we go, sweet, I don't have to worry about crashing production. I'll just launch the damn thing, right? Or put it in production. So that's the biggest difference. Cool, I should put this slide up, otherwise I get in trouble. There we go. It's coming. Ta-da. No, seriously, we would love for you to try it out. Obviously, we think we're onto something that works in a new, interesting way. That will just take you to the Azure Marketplace, because you have to have an Azure account to use it right now. That's just the way that we've set up. We are an Azure shop. That will change in the future, so we'll support more and more platforms. Did you want to say something?
Is there like a development here? So, I'll be writing something for a client. I'll use the dev version, which will have less SLAs or whatever. May then just buy the pro or the
whatever, yeah.
Yeah. Is there something like
well, there's the free version.
free one?
Yeah, and you can set up as many as you want.
Okay.
It just probably just requires a different tenant every time, but you probably have that for different client projects anyway.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can use that. Has anyone got that? Everyone got that, rather? If I just go back to the get off. Come on. And no. Yeah. So there, it's a bit small, sorry.
While you're here, actually,
Yeah.
Pricing, I don't see how the plan, like how does it scale? Like if you have, from an end user perspective, let's say we decided to use this in a client-side app, and an app that has 1,000 customer versus 1 million customer.
Yeah,
like,
we don't make that difference.
You don't make our, so how do you manage?
We're not launched Darkly.
How do you manage?
We have it by product. So product, think of a product as an instance of the portal, of the FeatureBoard portal. So you can set up 5 products essentially. And I like this. I didn't write this obviously, but unlimited products. I thought, oh, you're brave. I'll have 1 million. Yeah. So does that answer it?
It's all right.
Otherwise, yeah, come talk to me afterwards. Yeah, it's fine. Yes.
Is there an upper limit to your audience categories?
Is there an upper limit?
So,
I mean, I'm not going to say no. I'm a developer. I know there's a limit somewhere.
technically not environments, but our tool is deployed over what you could call maybe 1,000 different environments, because every customer has a completely unique environment.
Yep.
I'm just wondering how it behaves in scenarios like that, where you're not talking about a single deployment of like a SaaS application.
Yeah.
You have a tool that is
interesting.
completely separate.
Yeah, because we spoke to a company actually in Melbourne that had similar setup with their marketing company, and they set up for each customer, they have their own portal set up for them, and it's their tenant essentially,
Yes,
right?
Yeah,
Along,
isolated.
correct. And it's tricky. I'm not going to just make shit up because I'm not entirely sure what the solution is for that. That's a Jake question. Jake. No, I'm happy to have a conversation about it. I'm just not sure exactly how we would do that. Anyone else? No? Cool. Well, thank you for listening to my rambling, and I hope you try it out. That's all I can say. Thank you.